Hello, hello. Remember this guy? This little angry guy right here? He used to be so happy. He was all so happy and now he's angry. Well, this guy was the boy that Zuko sort of befriended, I guess. He kind of became his friend. If you remember, Zuko ran away from Iroh and Zuko was alone. I think the episode is actually called Zuko Alone, and Zuko runs into this Earth Kingdom town where he's buying food, and then these fake soldiers bully him, and then he sees some little boys throwing eggs at the fake soldiers, and Zuko actually defends the little boys by not ratting them out. And the little boy right here, his name is Lee, is so thankful that he goes and he brings Zuko home, and his parents are really nice to Zuko and they feed him and they let him stay there. And of course, he provides some work for them. But the point is, there's this guy and his family, they were so nice and so relatable. And I really like these people because if you meet these kinds of people in real life, they're just really nice people. But of course, at the very end, tragedy struck. They learned that Lee's older brother was captured and taken to the front line. So the dad went to rescue that big brother, while the mom and Lee stayed behind. And then Lee was captured by the fake Earth Kingdom soldiers, and then Zuko went and freed him. But of course, Zuko used fire bending, and so after that, this little boy and the mom just absolutely blew up at Zuko, and they were just like, "Oh my gosh, we hate you!" Like Lee literally told Zuko that he hated him, and so Lee and his mom, they just absolutely hated Zuko, and just because he was Fire Nation, and of course he's literally and like, okay, you have to think about it from the perspective of Lee and his mom. They've lost so much to the Fire Nation. Her son, his brother, might be dead for all they know, and his dad, her husband, might also be dead. So the Fire Nation has taken away so much from them, and to find out that Zuko is the prince of the Fire Nation, well, that's just gonna, of course they're gonna hate him, like, obviously. And of course we feel terrible for Zuko because he didn't personally do all that stuff. It was Zuko's father Ozai, grandfather Azulon, and great-grandfather Soza, and they're the ones who did that. But still the point is, Zuko is just in a no-win situation because he had to use firebending to defeat the fake Earth Kingdom soldiers and rescue Lee, but by using firebending, he made the entire town hate him because, so it's in a no-win situation. But the point of this video is, I really hope that Lee and Zuko made amends in the future. And by the way, it's just hilarious that this little kid's name is Lee, because if you remember, the fake name that Zuko uses all the time is Lee. While Zuko was traveling through the Earth Kingdom, the fake name he was using was the name Lee. And so, because this little boy's name is also Lee, Zuko didn't feel like using the name Lee as well. But of course, Zuko could have still just used it and said, "My name is Lee too." But of course, this little boy Lee's dad was really nice, and he's like, "Hey, Zuko doesn't even like this guy doesn't even have to say his name if he doesn't want to." And just, yeah. So my hope is that after the war, this little boy met up with Zuko, or maybe Zuko decided to meet up with little boy. But I don't think Zuko would preemptively meet up with this boy because, of course, they didn't end on good terms, and Zuko probably figures that this boy would not be happy to see him, so maybe Zuko didn't reach out to him, but maybe this little boy eventually reached out to Zuko, although for a little peasant boy to get in touch with the Fire Lord himself would be a difficult thing to do, so maybe that didn't happen. Anyhow, I just hope that they met again somehow and just worked through their differences. And Lee said, "Thank you for rescuing me, thank you for being like this." And then Zuko said, "Thank you for doing all this and taking me in and being nice to me when you didn't know who I was. And what's the past is in the past. Let's let it go. And great to see you. And I hope you're doing well." Like, I wish something like that had happened, but obviously it didn't. I mean, we don't know. It could have happened somewhere in the timeline. We maybe just haven't been told about it. Maybe there hasn't been a story about it yet, but maybe it happened. The point is, I hope that they met again somehow at some point. And what would be really awesome is if maybe in the time of Legend of Korra, when Zuko is like 91 years old and this little boy is also an old man, imagine if the two of them met again and this little boy's like, "Oh, hey, Zuko, you look old now. And it's me, Lee. We met all those years ago when you stayed at my house and rescued me from the fake Earth Kingdom soldiers by using firebending on them. How have you been?" And Zuko's like, "Oh my gosh, good to see you. I'm sorry about how it ended." And this little boy's like, "Oh yeah, I was angry, but I understand you now, and you saved the world with the Avatar." And I'm like, it'd be interesting if they just met again as old men and just worked it out. And also, I don't think that this boy's dad, Lee's dad, would have been too angry to find out that Zuko was the Fire Prince, because this guy's dad just seems so chill and so, like, so just calm, is I guess a way to put it. So, yeah, I mean, with this, it would have been more interesting to see his dad's reaction and to Zuko being to this boy's dad's reaction to Zuko being the Fire Prince. But it was a really nice episode overall, and I assume that after the 100-Year War, this boy and his mom heard about how Zuko, the guy who stayed at their house one time, worked with the Avatar to destroy the Fire Nation and bring an end to the 100-Year War, and how he's one of the heroes of Team Avatar. Like, it would have been awesome if this boy and his mom heard about that. I mean, I'm sure they did, and maybe they did a little rethinking and came to forgive Zuko. Or maybe they just stayed angry at Zuko forever and ever and ever. Who knows? You know, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, this little boy Lee, he really should have been Legend of Korra. Maybe in book 3, because Zuko was around in book 3. So maybe this little boy, maybe he should have been taking the place of Zhai Bao, and maybe this boy should have been the founder of the Red Lotus. Because remember, imagine if this boy founded the Red Lotus because he wanted to take out the Fire Lord Zuko. Like, imagine if this boy was so angry and resentful and just held such a grudge against Zuko that he decided to be the founder of the Red Lotus and just overthrow Zuko or something, and maybe that's how the Red Lotus started. Like, imagine if that had been the way they'd gone. I mean, obviously they didn't go that way, but the point is, it would have been quite interesting. Because I understand the argument against bringing the old characters, like characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender, into too much into Legend of Korra, like do it in a limited way. Like, they only had Toph a little bit, they only had Katara a little bit, they only had Zuko a little bit. But I mean, and I know that they want to do that because they created new characters, Mount Kubal and Korra Asami, and they want to do their stories. But I mean, we could have just brought in some of the older characters, like some of the more obscure ones, and given them more of a story, I guess. But whatever the case is, I hope this kid is doing well now, and I hope he's made his amends with Zuko and they worked it out. If not, oh well.